Most people think leadership starts the day you get a title, like a manager role, a team, a business card that finally says director or founder. But here's the truth. People are already following you long before that. They're watching how you handle stress, how you talk about other people when they're not in the room, and whether you keep your word when nobody's checking. That's called self-leadership. And if that foundation is shaky, no job title is going to be able to fix it. Today, we're going to break down what leading yourself actually looks like in the day-to-day. So think like your calendar, the decisions you make, and especially in how you handle your own mistakes. If you've been waiting for someone to give you leadership opportunities, my friend, this episode is for you because the work starts way before the promotion. Welcome back to Built to Grow. I'm your host, Valdet, and this show is all about personal and professional growth that actually compounds over time. I have over a decade of leadership development experience, so I am very excited to talk to you about this topic. Each episode on the show, we unpack the real skills and habits that move you forward, not just in your career, but how you show up in life. I'm a huge fan of developing the whole person, and so everything Built to Grow is about developing the entire person, which includes today. Today, we're talking about leading yourself before leading others. So this episode is for you if you want to lead people or projects one day, but maybe you feel like you're not there yet. Or you're already in a leadership role and you feel that gap between who you are and who people think you are on paper. Or maybe you've realized that winging it emotionally and mentally is starting to cost you. So we're going to break this into 3 parts. Part 1 will be self-feedback, how you see yourself and tell yourself the truth without actually crushing your self-confidence. Number 2 will be decision hygiene. These are the small, repeatable ways that you make and communicate decisions. And then number 3, repair after mistakes. How you handle it when you drop the ball. Because the truth is, that's when people really decide if you're a leader or not. So let's start with feedback. The first pillar of self-leadership is self-feedback. Here's the truth. Most of us are either way too harsh or too soft on ourselves. So we're either our own worst critic or we are our own best damn defense lawyer. I will tell you from experience, neither extreme will help you grow. Let me give you a quick example from my own life. There was a long time. I lean towards harsh. I'm very harsh on myself. I have certain standards of excellence, which I hold myself to, but I also hold other people to. And so I'm harsh on myself, and I will push myself to create like the perfect thing. But what happens is that sometimes in my quest for perfection and for excellence, I kind of steamroll people. I want my own way. I will compete with others in conflict to win my way or the highway. And I found that I did that a lot, but I didn't know that I was doing it. And then but it also was rooted, because when we talk about self-perception, how I saw myself, and I just felt very insecure, like next to my peers. Some of them had college degrees. I didn't have one yet. And so I became very arrogant as a way to compensate on the harshness I had for myself, because I found the one thing that I'm good at. And so I didn't want to be bad at it at all. But when I talked to my team and when I started going through different leadership development programs, like both running them and being part of them, it required me getting feedback from folks, like peers that I worked with. And I was honestly surprised. And this, mind you, this was happening in like my 40s, my early 40s. And so I'm like, oh, I just didn't know. I didn't realize. And once I became aware, I then had to have self-feedback of like, Valdet, how are you showing up in meetings? Okay, yes, you are leading this project. Yes, your name is on this project. But how else can we achieve excellence? It just took me a while to learn how to do that. And once I got like clearer feedback from people I trusted And I realized like the story in my head about myself was way more dramatic. And it was just a standard that I held myself to. And I was really harsh if I didn't meet it fully. Okay, I was kind of insufferable to work with, but I got better and I was easier to work with. And some of my strained relationships actually got better because I had learned how to lead myself. Here's a simple self-feedback loop you can start using every week. This helped me a great deal. So asking yourself just a couple of questions. What actually happened? Just the facts. Take the emotion out. Just talk about answer the question to yourself. What actually happened in this case, in this meeting, in this, whatever it is. And then you want to follow up and say, okay, so here's what actually happened. What story am I telling myself about it? So this is kind of plays a little bit into the self-coaching model where you identify the facts and then you identify what is the story you built around it. What is the context you created around the event that happened or, several events, whatever it is. And then, because sometimes you look at it, our story is the truth, but it's not. It's maybe a truth or it's our truth, but it's certainly not the truth. And so a third question, so after you ask what actually happened, you would then say, well, what story am I telling myself about this? And then the third question would be, what else could be true? Because multiple things can be true at the same time. That's called multiplicity. What else could be true? What is another truth that could also exist? That's a very profound question. And just doing that alone helps rewire your brain to start thinking differently and to start seeing things from different perspectives. So it's a really powerful question. And then we don't want to boil the whole ocean at once, and especially when we're leading ourselves. So the fourth question you want to ask, what's one behavior I can adjust next time? One. You want to pick one thing. If you pick more than one, it'll be overwhelming and then you'll feel defeated. So what's one behavior you can adjust the next time? That self-awareness and that self-reflection with a commitment to a new behavior change is leading yourself. Here, let me give you like a full example. So let's say, because this happened to all of us, you miss a deadline. Okay, so the first question, what happened? You deliver the project one day late. That's it. That's the fact. Then you say, well, okay, what's the story I'm telling myself? Maybe the story is, I'm unreliable. I always mess this up. Then you want to ask yourself, okay, well, what else could be true? And it could be maybe the response is, I didn't protect my focus time, or, I didn't clarify the scope early enough to understand. That can also be true. And then one behavior to adjust, you could say, I'm going to block 90 minutes of protected work time earlier in the week, or clarify expectations with my manager sooner. As a personal coach, I've helped clients with this kind of stuff, and this has been a very impactful behavior. Just changing that one behavior and committed to that one behavior, I have seen more behavior change and more success than trying to boil everything at once. So this is definitely something that's worked for my clients and it's worked for me as well. And so I definitely suggest you give that a shot. Identify one behavior to adjust, just one. And the best way to pick out which one had the most impact, which one was the most important. Impact and importance are usually a good way to identify which thing you want to work on first. Look, leaders don't pretend they're perfect, and they also don't beat themselves up every time something goes wrong. They tell themselves the truth, and they translate that truth into the next small behavior change. Think about the past week. Where did you feel embarrassed or frustrated with yourself? What was the story you told yourself? And then what is one behavior you can tweak next time? See that right there, that's self-leadership in action. And once you're willing to tell yourself the truth, the next layer is how you make decisions. The second pillar is what I call decision hygiene. Most people think leadership is about big, dramatic decisions, but in reality, it's about hundreds of small ones. What you say yes to, what you say no to, when you speak up, and when you stay quiet. Good leaders have simple, repeatable patterns around decisions, And you can copy this today, even if no one reports to you yet. I always like to remind people too, consistency is one of the top ways to build trust with people around you. So if you have simple, repeatable patterns and you are consistent in those patterns, you will establish yourself as a self-leader, as a peer leader, and eventually a titled leader. So let me give you a simple decision hygiene checklist to help you when you make decisions. So before you say yes or no to anything, run it through this quick filter. 1, is this aligned with my current priorities? Everything cannot be a priority, so you have to choose what is your current priority, and does this thing, is it aligned with the priority, or will this add additional work that doesn't need to happen right now? That helps you answer yes or no. Is this aligned with my current priorities? Which goes into the second question. What is the real cost in time and energy? Is it appropriate or worth doing now or at some point, or can this wait until another time? Because remember, you only have a finite amount of time and energy. So whatever you put your time and energy into, you take it away from something else. So you have to decide, what's the cost here? So that's number 2. Number 3, who needs to know about this decision? Who are the stakeholders? Who are the shareholders? Is it your leader? Is it another team? Is it another division? Is it a project manager? We can't just make decisions in isolation. We have to talk about who needs to know about this decision, because we might get some more insight to help us choose yes or no. And then the fourth question you want to ask yourself is, when will I review or adjust this? So that will also help you consider, is this something I say yes or no to? When will I review this, or do I need to adjust it? Is it like a right now? Is it urgent? Can I schedule it? All things you want to consider. Now, the best part is you can literally write these 4 questions on a sticky note next to your desk and have them. And I will tell you, I am naturally a fast decision maker. So sometimes I forget these things and I have to keep a note to myself of like, okay, wait, yes, maybe I feel like I need to do this right. And maybe I feel like I need to say yes, but is it really aligned with what I'm working on right now or not? And I especially, do I have the time and energy, and is it appropriate use of time and energy? So those are things I think about myself. And then I ask about other people, like my team or, a client, here's my decision. That also helps me think about where I'm at. And then when do I review it? Let me give you an example. Because this happens all the time. Let's say your manager asks you to jump on a quick side project, because we know quick is never quick. So if we look at those 4 questions, priorities, does this support the main goals that you've already agreed on for the quarter? Cost, is this actually a 30-minute task or like a 5-hour rabbit hole? That discernment right there goes a long way. Then there's communication. If you say yes, who needs to know that your time just got reallocated? What will you be working on? What can you not work on anymore? And then the review. When will you check back in and see if this is still worth doing? It's like a temperature check. Should I still be working on this, or should I be doing something else? When you start running your decisions through that filter, people begin to experience you as a thoughtful, calm, and consistent leader and person, not just reactive. So decision hygiene isn't just about what you decide, it's also how you communicate it. And I cannot tell you, I cannot swear to this enough. If you want to be an effective person, human, sibling, parent, aunt, uncle, caregiver, leader, individual contributor, communication is the skill that you have to master. How you communicate something, it makes or breaks trust. It makes or breaks relationships. And so it's really important that you just not only think about what you're going to do, but how you communicate it. So I'm going to give you a script that you can even steal. It's very clear and to the point. So you can say, and again, this will be my Patreon for free. So you can say, here's what I'm deciding. So that's the decision made. Here's why. Here's what it means for you, and here's when we'll revisit it. So you can use that in emails, in meetings, Slack, anywhere. If you're communicating a decision. Also, I always tell people, especially if you're messaging your own leader, put yourself in the leader's shoes, put yourself in the audience shoes, whoever the person is that you're contacting. And this is a great way to give them the direct information up front. So they have the what, the why, the how, the who, the when, and it answers the questions before they ask them. Now, I want you to reflect. Think about one decision that you've been avoiding or the one that's been messy, which also, it's worth noting, when we procrastinate or put off making a decision, it's not because we're avoiding the decision. We're avoiding the emotional labor behind the decision. And so I often, when I work with my clients and I work with, my partners, the question I always ask, what are you avoiding? And that goes back to the self-perception and then giving ourselves self-feedback. But think about a decision you've been avoiding or one that's been messy. How would it feel to slow down, to run it through the checklist and communicate it with that 4-line script that I gave you? What would be different for you? All right, and that takes us to our third pillar of self-leadership, which is repair. This is the part that a lot of ambitious people skip. We either pretend nothing's happening and hope people forget, or we spiral into shame and disappear. Or honestly, sometimes if you're like me and you just move very fast, you might not even realize that something's happened. So you just don't see it, but other people do. But none of those responses build trust. And in fact, they will break trust. Leaders aren't the people who never mess up. They're the people who repair well. So I want to give you a simple framework. So when you drop the ball, you're late, you overpromised, you said something you regret. Here's a simple framework that will help you have a conversation about this and help you repair. So it's 5 steps. And again, it'll all be listed on my Patreon for free. Step 1, you have to name it. You have to say the thing whatever it was the issue was, you have to address it. You have to be proactive and address it. So name it. I said this. I was late on this. I did this. Name the thing that happened and then own your part. I didn't turn it in. It was my fault because I did this, or I overbooked this, or I was whatever it was. Own your part and state the impact. Say, I know that you were waiting for this. I know that it really upset you, but you want to acknowledge the other person's feelings. So you want to state the impact on the business, on the person. You want to share the adjustment. Going back to that behavior change. What's the one behavior you're going to change? Going forward, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to stop doing this. And then you recommit to it. You make a promise. You are holding yourself accountable. So again, the 5 steps. Name it. Own your part. State the impact. Share the adjustment. Recommit. And you can keep this super short. I mean, it doesn't have to be like an elongated thing. It could be something like, hey, I missed the deadline we agreed on. That's on me. I know it put pressure on your side of the project. I've blocked time earlier in the week for deep work so this doesn't repeat. You can expect the final version by Thursday afternoon, and I'll keep you updated if anything changes. Again, that's self-leadership. You're not waiting for someone to call you out. You're the one going first. Now, I want you to think of a time where someone repaired well with you. They owned it quickly and clearly. And notice how that actually increased your trust in them. That's the effect that you can create for other people. All right, friend, let's land this. Leading yourself before leading others comes down to those 3 daily practices. Self-feedback, telling yourself the truth and turn it into one small behavior change. Decision hygiene, making and communicating decisions in simple, repeatable ways. And then repair, owning your mistakes quickly and clearly and showing people how you'll adjust. You don't need a title to start doing any of this. You can start that today in the way you handle your own calendar, your own commitments, and your own communication. So your action step this week, you have homework. Pick one of these 3 areas and choose a tiny next move. Maybe it's running one situation through the self-feedback loop. Maybe it's using that 4-line decision script in your next email. Or maybe it's repairing something that you've been quietly avoiding. Leadership is built in these small, unglamorous reps. Thanks for listening to Built to Grow. If this episode helped you, share with one person who's on their own leadership journey. And if you're not already subscribed, hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. And I'll see you in the next one.